All right, I think we are streaming live. My name is Freeman Michaels. I'm running for Congress in California's 52nd District.
And I'm Danielle St. John. I'm running for Congress in California's 49th District.
Today we're going to talk about Russiagate and then talk about how the cooperative economy 5 years out, if once implemented, can work on cooperative buildings. And you can see here, right down there, our streaming empire. We stream to all of those platforms. The most basic place to check it out, though, is our YouTube channel. You can get there from humanitarises.info and then click the YouTube link. But for now, we have a video because one of us was featured in international news. Check this out.
The people in the video, as you heard, are in fact American activists who believe the media has hyped up Russia's perceived reach online. They're trying to point out that they themselves chose who to vote for.
The media pushes this narrative that Russia is to blame for everything. Russia hacked the DNC.
Russia's hacked into a lot of things.
Massive interference in American elections.
But if that's the case, why didn't the DNC let the FBI look at their servers?
It wasn't Russia, it was us.
Not just in the Facebook groups, we were also there on the ground, protesting.
I personally made more memes in this election about Hillary Clinton than anybody in Russia did.
I'm sure there'd be a lot of messages we could give to the politicians out there, but this is just us.
Your social media feed may have been part of Russia's interference in the election.
We started to get accused as, a Russian troll or a Russian bot, and we're thinking to ourselves, we don't even speak Russian.
The mass of America is being misrepresented to the world.
They're tied to the Kremlin. They're a Russian ape. They're Putin's puppet.
We start to think, okay, they're really just trying to mess with us.
They were taking both sides of the argument to try to just raise the noise level.
Anybody who was paying attention to the 2016 election knows how much election fraud was going on.
We know where the actual collusion was. It was between the DNC and the mainstream media. This whole Russiagate narrative is a huge smokescreen to distract from all the corruption in the Democratic Party and, the Republican Party too.
I'm running for Congress, actually. One politician this weekend basically laughed at me and said, unless you have $2 million, you can't compete.
It's not the right person's left. We're all oppressed by the same system.
We're not taking any corporate money.
The mainstream media pundits, they're elites. All the politicians, they're all profiting off of our division, all of our bickering. So we need to fight back.
We got together and demonstrate that we are real people.
Bernie Sanders accused me of being a Russian bot. Bernie wants trouble.
I'm a Russian bot.
I'm a Russian bot. I'm a Russian bot. You're Russian. Yes.
And apparently a Russian bot is running for Congress now.
That would be me. I don't know if I was more excited to be called an activist or a candidate, to be honest, because that was really exciting. I feel really, really happy to be a voice for so many, because I know there's so many people out here who have been thinking this exact same thing, and it's really hard with how divided we all are to get our voices heard. So I'm happy. I hope that I represented our movement well.
And the unfortunate part is a lot of people who are still believing Mueller and those investigations. It's like the division keeps going, and they feel like we're not taking the Russian threat seriously. But you still push back and you're like, well, where is the Russian threat? And other than a couple meetings and some Facebook ads, and apparently you do better at memes than the Russian trolls.
Okay, semi-legit.
It's like, still, where is the threat? And that's where we're still at.
Right.
So if it's there, then so be it.
And I just wanted to take just one other second to address a question that was asked to me directly, and I don't feel like I had time to appropriately respond. So I've already summarized it in our stream of consciousness before. So the question of do I think that Donald Trump is a better president than Hillary Clinton?
Oh, you got to push that one.
Yeah,
Oh,
well,
wow.
I just want to, I want to make my, the question.
I've had that on my wall too.
Yeah, so I just thought I would just, it's a common question. Right now, I don't really know if we can trust Donald Trump's motives, to be honest. This is so unknown. This is so foreign. Anybody who says that they're an expert on politics right now is lying. So, and we're not going to talk about campaigns much, but I just wanted to address the fact that why I feel that I still think Donald Trump is a better president than Hillary Clinton would have been, and it's because I do believe that we would be in World War III if she was president, and you can look at her actions, her tweets, and her history to see that she is a war hawk. She is still trying to push us to go into World War III. Exactly. And so, just the simple fact that I believe that Hillary Clinton has pushed several times to get us into war with Russia or Syria, or that she's just constantly after a war, and Donald Trump hasn't actually gotten us into World War III yet. That is the only reason. Everything else really is, to be determined.
It's like expect Trump to enrich his friends because that's what every other politician has done.
Exactly.
And it's not like we didn't know that going in.
Exactly. Yeah. So.
And I think the big thing for me, or for a lot of people, can be summarized is that Hillary's corruption scared more people than Trump's whatever it is that you want to say. If he was bigoted, or if he was corrupt, or in of his oil buddies, enough people were like, you know what? I'd rather Trump than Hillary.
So I can definitely talk about it more at a later date in person on another live stream. But just to kind of get back on topic for today, we want to keep it mostly about the cooperative economy.
And real quick, all the cool kids are hanging out on Danielle's Facebook wall. So despite all these amazing streaming platforms, this one there is better on Danielle's Facebook wall. For now. It's not a competition, though.
No, it's definitely not a competition. Because I'm already winning.
This is where before we get into cooperative buildings, let's do a quick refresher on the cooperative economy. And we are still working on how we can describe this quickly. It's really simple to say, but then it's hard to connect all the dots. And the only change is its open source philosophy marries either small business or a community project, depending on how you want to look at it. But the open source philosophy is key because that means you are gaining from what other people have done before you, and then you are contributing to the public knowledge. It's kind of like sitting on the shoulders of giants or standing on the shoulder of giants. And in this slide here, we have the top one. It's food, news, and health. This is what we are advocating that people focus on, but people can really focus on anything they want. And we think that within 1 to 2 years that we will, as a community, as a society, will start to be able to grow food, provide our own news, and then start to provide basic health services. And that will be done in 1 to 2 years. And that will, of course, continue to improve indefinitely. It will never just be a static thing, but 1 to 2 years until things can start get going. And then 2 to 5 years, we are thinking, again, these is all what we can advocate, but anyone can do anything at any point in time. But we think energy, education, and transportation, and that can look however you want it to look like. Some communities that live in a lot of sunshine areas would probably elect for a lot more solar panels than a place that gets a lot of wind, and that's however your community wants it. But like we were talking about earlier, it's not like you have to start with food, news, and health. If you want to start with energy because it's low-hanging fruit for your community, you should absolutely do that. And if other people are working on food, news, and health, and you want to work on education, there's no reason why you couldn't do that. It's all based on what you want. And then in the 5+ year range, that's when we get into manufacturing and design. And this really happens when a community can start producing something. And the most basic thing you can produce is energy. But if you are, let's say you have a 3D printer, or you have some natural resources in the ground, or some manufacturing capability, you can take things and provide services to other communities. And this is basically the same as economies worldwide. The basic difference here is that it is open source, and that when you learn something, you share it with the rest of the world.
Mm-hmm.
No, go ahead. Okay. the part though that I think it's hard to really grasp on how big of an impact it is, but in the first 1 to 2 years when you do food, news, and health, really look at what industries we are unseating there, because that is for food, that's Monsanto and the FDA. Both of those groups absolutely want power, and all the people that work for those industries want jobs. And then the news, they definitely want to have influence over society. I'm sure Amazon or Jeff Bezos didn't buy Washington Post just because he was obsessed with everyone getting quality news. And maybe he was. I've never spoken to him, but that's kind of doubtful. And then health, it seems like it doesn't take much, but if you look at our health industry, it's pretty much a market, and they're only there to make money off of us. And the important part to get out of this is on the last slide, because the cooperative buildings come after this phase, when a lot of the questions when we talk about this stuff is how is it going to get paid for? Where are the resources going to come from? And that is in this last phase, when your community is producing its own energy and resource extraction and manufacturing, then it can start to provide services to other communities, or it can start to build its own buildings.
One thing I'd like to kind of add, and this is really, at this phase, is more of a seed that I want to plant, and because I know that someone will be able to come up with how to implement things down the road. There's a lot of people that probably even now have the education, the skill set to automate things. And and really it seems that there's this almost like stigma against automation, because it seems
serves the rich, it seems like.
Right.
The businesses.
But if you think about it from the perspective of, if they're not trying to capitalize on us, then that automation really just does benefits to humanity if we allow it to. Like, for instance, there's one industry the first industry that I was actually ever aware of that was automated and saving lives was logging trucks. I guess it was really dangerous, windy roads, and lots of demand on these truck drivers. They were falling asleep at the wheel. They were dying. And I mean, enough for people to start putting their heads together to solve the problem. And what they came up with was automated driving trucks. So they're automated.
Volvo just released those, didn't they?
Recently, but this was like a few years ago. So this was just something that was this was when it was first on my radar, is that this was kind of the first industry that was like, oh well, it's not necessarily that it's just trying to take jobs away as punishment for demanding minimum wage. It's not really, I think that's really kind of what it's being sold as, but I think that if we allow humanity to guide automation instead of capitalism, then it makes everybody's life easier instead of harder.
Right now, automation makes it more efficient and more profitable for somebody else. And instead, automation can make it so that a human being has to work less. If you are trying to produce 12 chickens a day or 12 eggs a day, and you can automate that so you didn't have to feed them, you're still producing 12 eggs a day, but now you just have to work less. And the same concept can be applied pretty much everywhere you go.
Unless you just like feeding your backyard chickens, because sometimes that's just fun.
So let's get into it. A cooperative building. The one thing that I want to start off with is you should ask, what is it in your life that you would want? Because that's really the type of thing that living in a cooperative building that we're picturing would happen. Like that it's not what we say, it's not going to be decided by some other large institution. This is what you guys want. It will be what the community wants. And when people get used to their collective will being reflected through, they learn how to do food, news, and health, and energy, education, transportation, and all those other phases, something like this will just be another natural step. Like, of course we could make a building to our specifications because we're already doing this in our community. So what basic things would you like in your day? And in a cooperative building, perhaps we all don't need our own laundry room. We could just have a service in the building where you put all your laundry in a basket and it will wash and dry and fold and return it to your unit. So just right there, there's some efficiency because you don't have to run all the plumbing and all the electrical and all that stuff, and people don't have to maintain their own separate ones. And you can have an automated service, or maybe the automation's not ready yet, and you could have someone actually volunteer or work for it, and that will be part of their contribution to living in the cooperative society. And that's the payment you people are effectively expected to work a certain amount, pretty much how everyone else is working, and that's a voluntary basis. If you want to only get a certain amount of services, food, news, health, and energy, maybe you only work 10 hours a month. And if you want more, maybe you work 30 hours a month. It's all up to you. But living in a cooperative building, I'm sure that there are different options that you could have, different packages you could have.
I don't know about you guys, but thinking about the energy shift in my life, if I didn't ever have to fold or do laundry again, I'm not a laundry fan.
Sucks.
It really does. And honestly, like, let's just be like real with ourselves, like, and how much these little things really shape our relationships with our loved ones. You know, it's like these roles that kind of are pushed on people, and it's like, you know, you toughen up and you do it, but that's only because we choose to put ourselves in these little individual packages instead of working, you know, cooperatively.
Right. So cooperatively, a building could easily afford the best practice of laundry, washing, drying, and folding and returning. That would be a very solvable problem, and that would be cheaper than everyone owning their own washer and dryer and using their electricity and all that. So that's laundry. Preparing food is another favorite one that, you know, some people love to cook and they will of course have that option. But do you love having to cook? And that's obviously the answer is usually no, because you want to have more free time to do with whatever it is that you do. So there are already systems out there that automatically do food and dishes, and I think it was like up to 300 meals or 3,000 meals. I mean, who knows? This is 5 years in the future, so it'll be more in the future. But you could have an automated food supply service, much like room service, and the whole building would share in that cost and the maintenance. And if you wanted to cook your own food, you could use all of the automated or partially automated, and it will be basically a world-class kitchen because you're all using it together. And of course your unit could have a small kitchen if that's what the community desired. It's all about what the community wants when they design it.
And let's say that, you know, you're an accountant or, you know, a lawyer or something like that, and now we're into this you know, cooperative living to the point where these kind of things aren't really as necessary anymore. That, you know, because we have started to cooperate. Right. Let's say that you discover that you love being a chef, you love cooking food, right? So maybe in the early stages of this, you can use that passion, that love, that energy, and cook for the building or something like that. Have a cafeteria, you know, a gourmet cafeteria or something like that. You just never know where this is going to lead us, but it can't lead us anywhere bad if we're owning it.
If we're cooperating. And there's preparation of food, but if you're going to prepare your food, you might as well be growing your own food. And there's no reason why different cooperative buildings can't share, but there's certainly, since food, news, and health was done as phase one, at this point when you're doing cooperative buildings, phase one is a long time in the past, you will know how to grow your own food, and you will be able to say, this building wants this fresh seasonal something, and then they can grow that. And that will all be in control of them.
Exactly.
I think having fresh food, and that, you know, that could be one of those things where kids can go and visit, hey, this is where our food comes. And then you can see, hey, this is, you know,
exactly.
This is how we feed ourselves.
Yes.
And everyone will know how to grow their own food because it will all be an open process.
That could be part of cooperative education.
Right. Learn how to grow your own food. Babysitting service could be nice. I mean, that one's a pretty straightforward one because there's not really a whole lot of automation. I hope it's not.
Yeah.
But it would certainly be nice if you lived in a building and some people who don't think they have any skills, but they like to hang out with kids or they're whatever. It's like, some people just like to hang out with kids and you can babysit.
Yeah.
And that would be a service to the community that we would all love. And you wouldn't have to do it just to make a living. You would have to do it. You would do it because
you love it.
Yeah. And hey, maybe 10 hours a month for babysitting is all your cooperative building requires to get all the rest of the basics. That's certainly possible.
Yeah.
We also have a play area, and that would be fun. So the cooperative building, it would be far more of a community because the kids would all know each other in that building. And I would imagine we have a cooperative play area, whatever the parents and the kids think is appropriate there. But an exciting part about that is you no longer have to buy individual toys for your kids. They can learn to share, and I know that sounds awful, but the community could buy, or the building could buy as many toys as they think is warranted to prevent the kids from creating an insurrection, but then they learn to share, and you don't have to each buy the same toy as it becomes popular, and then the next year it's out. At least they will learn to share and then use new toys and whatnot. I don't know about your kids, but my kids, when I get rid of their clothes,
it's not always because they're destroyed, right? I mean, I don't usually give away like, something with a hole in it to Goodwill. It's a lot of time because they've just outgrown them so quickly, right? And so I think, I know parents know that it's kind of a racket in a way, if you think about it, that we have to go and buy. I mean, these kids grow so fast. And so I think that that's also something that we can start looking at too, is that, we can start saving money. We can start bringing it back to we can, or actually get rid of money if we can just start sharing with our neighbors, right? Just clothes that are not ruined, just outgrown.
And certainly in the later stages, that's the phase 3 and beyond, you can start to phase out at least the need for money. In the beginning, until you have enough cooperation, we need capitalism, because we can't do this stuff on our own.
Right.
So we definitely need money in the beginning.
And childcare is an example of something that I don't really support at this time being automated. I think that, obviously kids don't need robots. Kids need people. Kids need to, they just need different things than, they're more complex than laundry, I guess.
A little bit.
For now.
And one of the things I thought would be fun at a cooperative building is you could easily have a balcony that, like a lot of these units in downtown, they have balconies so you can go and enjoy the sunrise. But most of the time those balconies are empty, and it's a little weird because you probably want a patio heater, and most people don't want to go out and buy a patio heater, and then you have to clean it because the stuff gets dusty. I know, first world problems. But you could have a cooperative building with a community balcony, and even some private balconies that you could rent on your app or something like that, so that you can go up maybe to the higher floors and enjoy the sunrise or enjoy the sunset. And that could even be combined with a rooftop bar or something. So that is really encouraging community, as opposed to having your own individual balconies. You're like, I've made it, I'm sitting on this high floor looking at my view. Now you can enjoy it with your community. And everyone doesn't have to have a balcony in their own apartment, because that would be a little less efficient than having one nice balcony that people can use, or maybe even several nice ones if you want to have privacy out there. And that's all cheap. It's all easy if you're going to be building and designing a cooperative building. And then the last one is not so fun, but it really does make sense, and that's the building generating its own energy and having a self-sufficient cooperative building. And maybe you need to have some land on the next adjacent lot or something, but certainly you could design self-sufficient, independent buildings that could then communicate and share energy with other buildings if their energy goes down or something like that. And that phase 2, of course, that distributing energy network would be something that most people would want. That way, if there's an oil shock or whatever happens, at least your building still has all of their basics. That is kind of the concept of the cooperative building.
Yeah, we're trying to keep it. We've gotten some feedback that we should keep these a little bit, make them a little shorter.
Not an hour long. We do have the goal of creating a 5 to 7 minute video. It'll be professionally done and animated with some other stuff in, and that will basically describe the need for the cooperative economy and then how to get started, and hopefully it'll be a little easier to pass on than a 45-minute presentation of what the cooperative economy is. It hopefully will get people starting to ask questions. Okay, anything else?
Shameless marketing. We're going to end with my my RT video again.
We're going to have it at the in the credits where all our contact information is. We're going to show that video again. If you want to subscribe to these videos on our YouTube channel, that is the best place to do it. There's a little subscribe and reminder icon. You can get there from humanitymerises.info. And as we mentioned, all the cool kids are hanging out on Danielle's Facebook page, and it is not a competition.
No.
Not a competition.
Not at all. Not even close.
All right. Thanks, everybody.
Okay. Bye.
Bye.
The people in the video, as you heard, are in fact American activists who believe the media has hyped up Russia's perceived reach online. They're trying to point out that they themselves chose who to vote for.
The media pushes this narrative that Russia is to blame for everything. Russia hacked the DNC.
Russia's hacked into a lot of things.
Massive interference in American elections.
But if that's the case, why didn't the DNC let the FBI look at their servers?
It wasn't Russia, it was us.
Not just in the Facebook groups, we were also there on the ground, protesting and
I personally made more memes in this election about Hillary Clinton than anybody in Russia did.
I'm sure there'd be a lot of messages we could give to the politicians out there, but this is just us.
Your social media feed may have been part of Russia's interference in the election.
We started to get accused as, a Russian troll or a Russian bot, and we're thinking to ourselves, we don't even speak Russian.
The mass of America is being misrepresented to the world.
They're tied to the Kremlin. They're Russianate. They're Putin's puppet.
We start to think, okay, they're really just trying to mess with us.
They were taking both sides of the argument to try to just raise the noise level.
Anybody who was paying attention to the 2016 election knows how much election fraud was going on.
We know where the actual collusion was. It was between the DNC and the mainstream media. This whole Russiagate narrative is a huge smokescreen to distract from all the corruption in the Democratic Party and, the Republican Party too.
I'm running for Congress, actually. One politician this weekend basically laughed at me and said, unless you have $2 million, you can't compete.
It's not the right versus left. We're all oppressed by the same system.
We're not taking any corporate money.
The mainstream media pundits, they're elites. All the politicians, they're all profiting off of our division, all of our bickering. So we need to fight back.
We got together and demonstrate that we are real people.
Bernie Sanders accused me of being a Russian bot. Bernie wants trouble.
I'm a Russian bot. I'm a Russian bot.
I'm a Russian bot. You're Russian.
Yes.